The Sonic Movie Show is a weekly podcast that you could find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other services like YouTube. Just search for The Sonic Movie Show and give us a like wherever you listen. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Sonic Movie Show. The only show that's about Sonic news, video game news, a lot of AMC shit, movie reviews. Last week was a video game review, and we're back to movie shit now, so let's talk about some movies. My name is Ethan. With me here is Devin.
There are so many of them.
That's the line you picked?
Because, does that apply to the Sonic Movie Show? Does that apply to Final Fantasy? Does that apply to, the monsters, the phantoms? I don't know, man. You pick.
Can I pick a better line for you next time?
I have other ones, but I wanted to pick one that was a little different. You weren't expecting. Because when you expect the quote, it's not as fun.
Okay. That was a quote, apparently, from Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within. The 2001, I actually don't have the document up.
Yes, 2001, 107 minutes, Columbia Pictures.
Epic Square Pictures Productions film. Yeah, this was a film that I've been dreading to watch, but it's a part of our big video game movie viewing experience, so that's what we're doing. I don't even know where we want to start with this film.
Can we start with when I knew, originally I would when we picked it, I was just like, okay, Final Fantasy, let's see how this goes, and then I originally thought we were watching Advent Children because I got confused, and then I was like, oh no, Spirits Within, and then when I saw some screenshots, I'm like, oh no. And then I watched the trailer on Amazon, and the trailer was so cheesily bad that I got excited. I'm like, oh, this might be a good bad film.
No, it's just boring bad.
It's just boring bad.
Yeah.
I feel like I want my 107 minutes back.
Box office honestly. Of $85 million, a runtime of 106 minutes, like you said. 2001, this was the beginning of Square Pictures. Squaresoft at the time, this is before the merger with Square Enix. Squaresoft was hurting for money real bad.
So they announced in a movie.
They announced a bunch of initiatives. We talked last week. They started making a compilation of Final Fantasy VII stuff, where they were going to. The idea was apparently to reuse assets and stuff, so that they're not investing a whole lot of money into new works off of popular stuff like Final Fantasy VII. Although everything they made in that compilation was all new stuff anyway, so it didn't really save them a lot of money, but that's how you got Final Fantasy X-2, because it's all reused assets for the most part from Final Fantasy X, though that would come out a few years later. And they wanted to really invest in the division of the company that made the CG trailers for their current games, and have those people work in Hawaii, which I think some of them already were there, as basically make take their existing technologies and how they made those cutscenes and make a runtime length film, a long feature length film. The idea was to kind of use the tools they already had to break into a new kind of market and make money that way. And this included Hollywood. This wasn't a, we're going to start off small with an OVA anime film, a direct to DVD and probably still VHS at that point, thing. No, we're going to go into Hollywood and we're going to get big stars for this film. Do you know any of these people? Did you look them up, or did you just recognize some voices?
Well, when the first 5 minutes, I heard Steve Buscemi, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then I paused it and did the X-ray thing with Amazon or whatever, and then it just lists all these people, and I'm like, wait, what? It's not just Steve Buscemi, but Alec Baldwin, Donald Sutherland, James Woods.
Alec Baldwin was the name I recognized first. And then I looked it up on Wikipedia because I did not watch this on Amazon, so I didn't have the X-ray. And it's oh yeah, Alec Baldwin, the woman that played Mulan in the animated film. Steve Buscemi, the black guy from the Mission Impossible films, who was on the up and up during this 2001 time, for sure. It's just what? There was some sitcom star was basically the Vasquez for this film. I don't remember what her character's name was. this was like, and like you look at the credits and like, oh yeah, there's only like maybe 8 characters, 8 people that have voices. There isn't even extra people screaming for help or anything. Like, oh yeah, all the budget of this film went to Alec Baldwin and Steve Buscemi, essentially.
And what's funny is Steve
James
Buscemi's
Woods.
character is basically the same character that he plays in, I think it's Armageddon there. Like just, he's the comic relief in like terrible situations. Like, oh, the world's ending, and he's like, one-liner.
And James Wood is just the classic villain type of person that he always plays, you know. Including the movie that wasn't supposed to praise him as a villain, but when he was that Rudy Giuliani documentary, because he's a villain in real life. Yeah, and wait, who was? Oh yeah, Alec Baldwin, who is always the griddled war veteran, right? No,
Yeah.
this he doesn't match anything about what that character is at all.
I mean, all these characters suck, but we can go into that
Oh my god.
later. But
yeah, so I had never seen this film before. You had never seen this film before.
know it existed.
I heard it was terrible.
it had 5 stars almost on Amazon. I kid you not.
On the cover of my copy, because I bought this on eBay, it has a 2 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert. I actually didn't look up that review. The famous movie reviewers that are super critical gave this film 2 thumbs up. And I want to know what the context is for that, but I, for some reason, never picked it up.
2 thumbs up to go waste your money and time.
Apparently. Maybe they were just really up on the idea of what the technology for their CG stuff could bring.
Maybe that's the one thing
Maybe
that
that's
like
it.
we're like, now it looks pretty rough, but I guess for 2001 it's not bad. But then I think of like Toy Story, you know? But
at the same time, like, I don't want to say this looks better than Toy Story, but a lot of, you know, I've played a lot of Squaresoft games and Square Enix games. And so, like, they have these CG cutscenes, and definitely seeing a Kingdom Hearts 2 cutscene or a Kingdom Hearts 1 or Final Fantasy 10 cutscene, I'm like, these look really good. Like, they do have the reputation of making really good CG cutscenes. Final Fantasy 13, I remember watching those trailers like crazy. I bought the game because of the CG trailers. Like, that's just the way it is. That's how they got fans. I mean, we talked about Final Fantasy 7 last week. That's how they got people to buy that original game, was their commercials were just the CG cutscenes. So, like, it is exciting to have that prospect of, like, the cool highlights of the video games this company is making is going to be a movie. That's an exciting prospect. They just decided to go with something that is completely boring and terrible. And
you know, this reminded me of Beowulf, which I didn't see, but like I know the general premise that, you know, all CG film, and like that was 2007. So 6 years later, you get Beowulf, and I'm trying to remember. Like, I'm looking at screenshots of Beowulf, and I'm like, could you say that Spirits Within influenced Beowulf?
if so, we're like, hey, let's make something bad. What can we take influence from? But
So
yeah,
we should do Beowulf again, with the same actors. Let's do it again.
I mean, I'd be fine if they made this movie again with the same actors. And then it's just a good reminder that it was bad. But this movie almost tanked the company completely. Squaresoft was in the point of their lives where they were going to be merging with Enix, and this almost ruined that relationship. The merger basically saved the company. So this film almost got rid of like everything that they would make sense.
Yeah, because they put 137 million into it and then only got 85 back.
Yeah.
So,
and like, but that's the crazy thing too. Like, this is existing technology they have, existing people that already worked at Square. Yes, they bulked up and, you know, hired more, but the idea was that this would be a way to, like, in a way of saving money, and instead they blow $130 million. You know, like, when I saw the 85, I'm like, I knew it didn't make money, but I'm like, I feel like this could be a $50 million budget film based on what it is. Because it's not all that impressive in terms of the things that they're showing on the screen. You know what I mean? It's not like it's as much shit we give Avatar, the James Cameron film. There's a lot of interesting and, you know, set piece stuff going on that like you can see that the money went there. You know what I mean?
My criticisms of James Cameron have nothing to do with like
the visual quality of that film.
Yeah.
That's the selling point of that movie. You know. But yeah, I'd never seen this film. I just knew it was infamously bad.
That was 2009, so that was only 8 years later.
That was 11 years ago. And we're getting a sequel next year, starring Vin Diesel.
Their boy Vin. Yep.
Yep. So I'd never seen this film, and I always knew it was laughably terrible. I didn't know the plot at all. And when we were starting off this venture of doing our video game movie reviews, and so far we've been kind of sticking to the same kind of early era, but we might not necessarily need to do that. We're not doing these in chronological order or anything like that. We're like, okay, we always kind of pick our film after we watch a previous one. What do we want to watch next? What do we want to watch next? And during this whole process, you know, I like to collect video game stuff. You know, I like to collect a lot of Square Enix stuff. I'm a video game man, and you know, I like to scroll through eBay, which apparently no one uses but me. Just gobbling up things for $3, $4, whatever. It's fun.
I got an ad for them on YouTube the other day, and I'm like, oh, this actually should just be free.
And I saw a copy of Final Fantasy Spirits Within, and I'm like, we're going to do this eventually, so I might as well get it. And I got it for PSP. I got a UMD copy of this game. I watched this film on my PlayStation Portable in 240p, which I don't know what the version, if yours was in HD or not.
I probably at least was 720.
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know. Is this a film that got a reissue? I don't know if it was ever worth it. I guess I never really looked too much to see if it actually had a Blu-ray release. But this, I will say one thing. We were talking about the visual quality. This looked like a PSP game. Cutscenes on my PSP, so it kind of worked for me in that sense, but it wasn't visually entertaining. But this whole process made me realize one thing, Devin, about my PlayStation Portable. My lovely PlayStation Portable, which I got in 2011, real late in its life cycle. Played a bunch of games on it, a lot of Square games, a lot of Metal Gear Solid games. My PSP is broken.
Oh, yeah?
As with all things that rely on moving parts, they eventually wear down. Anything that has a disc reader eventually wears down. My PSP struggles to read UMDs. I can't play games on this thing anymore. And watching this film, it stopped reading the UMD a total of 32 times. So 32 times it crashed, essentially, as if it's a program, it crashed. So I spent a lot longer watching this film because I had to wait for the UMD to reload everything and then press play.
You were on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Thankfully, it like crashing. Knew where it was, so I didn't have to like fast forward. But there'd be parts where Alec Baldwin would be like, "Aki, crash." Okay, load it back up. Click, 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 click. Press X. Wait for the thing. You hear that neat as it's spinning the disc like crazy in the back. And then it boots back up. I press play. We need to, and then it crashes again. I'm like, God damn it! I had to sit perfectly still so that like I don't jostle the disc in there because apparently that helped ruin it. You know, it took me it took me almost 2 hours to watch this hour and 6 minute film or 106 minute film.
It's hour 46 minutes.
Absolutely insane. Yeah. So I'm sure digital is the future. And this reminded me, like at one point, Sony was like, UMDs are going to be the future of portable films. We're going to be making a bunch of devices that use UMDs, not just PSP, my friends. Damn. We're going to be making other things that use UMDs. We haven't figured out what they will be, but...
Excuse me, do you know what the iPhone is?
Well, iPhone was 3 years after the PSP came out. We're talking 2004 versus
iPod
07.
Touch?
That was 2008.
Free iPod Nanos?
The closest would be the regular iPod, which did have video, I think, at the time.
I won so many free iPod Nanos.
Oh man, I know, right? You're on your computer at school, having fun. And it says you're the winner.
iPod Nanos. It's always two. They're like, we just have so many. We're just giving them away.
Remember freeairjordans.com?
No.
They were always like spamming the comment fields and IGN reviews. freeairjordans.com. In any case, that's my PSP struggles, but it doesn't end because this film sucks. So, before I guess we kind of recap the film, do you have any overall thoughts on the film?
This is like, I know at the end we usually rank. We've been like loosely ranking them out of all the ones we've watched. I already can tell you, like the first 30 minutes, I'm like, this is the worst video game movie I've seen, I think. And we've seen some rough video game movies, but
I don't think we've seen any that we were like, this is
I honestly
good.
would watch Pixels again.
I've never seen Pixels.
I'd pay money to watch Pixels before watching Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within for free. That's saying something.
Damn. I found the film extremely boring.
It's so boring.
It's
it dragged, and every time I was like, "Oh, are we at the end?" No.
Yeah, there's a couple moments where it's like seemingly coming to a climax, but then no, because this whole plot is just so
Some of the
terrible.
dialogue was weird. Some of the like scenes just didn't make any sense, and I'm like, "Is this was this made? This wasn't made for this was made for Hollywood." So I'm just like,
exactly.
I
With
don't get
Hollywood
it.
actors.
It's as if like some parts just seem like it was written in Japanese first, and then they translate it to English, and just felt weird. There's one scene in particular, but when we're doing the recap, I'll talk about it. Where I was just like, "What is this? When this is not normal dialogue that human beings have." I don't care.
But it's also weird.
2065. People don't talk like this.
It's weird because it almost lulls you into it does lull you into low expectation territory. So on the occasional thing where it does feel like there kind of is natural dialogue, it's like, oh yeah, this is good. Oh, never mind. It just brings you back up just to disappoint you again. But I mean, at least the animation was lip synced to English. I mean, I guess this was Hollywood was the design for it, so obviously they were going to have English, be the thing, and probably dub it back into. I wonder if it was dubbed back into Japanese, or if it was lip synced back to Japanese. I'm not sure,
because this was all done computer. There was no like motion capture. I'm assuming
there was some motion capture artistry, but to my knowledge, I don't think Square ever did that, like motion capture stuff. And I know for a fact they didn't lip sync to English, at least in any games, until Final Fantasy 13, which was 2010. So definitely during this time, like this was definitely this is a gamble on the Western market, and it disappointed them, or they disappointed us rather. So,
do we
want to
just want to say
begin?
this one last thing, that this movie could have been called anything, like any generic sci-fi title. Could have been like Space Warriors, and I'd have been like, yeah, I guess.
Exactly. The closest this thing has to anything Final Fantasy is just a general idea of taking what Final Fantasy VII does with the planet being alive, so to speak, and when you die, you return to the planet.
Yeah.
That's about it. So it's like, it's a good 2% Final Fantasy. I mean, you could argue, 2%. every mainline Final Fantasy game is completely unrelated, and they have different ideas and worlds and settings, but like, there's still through lines
of
this
like really felt at any
things.
moment like a video game, or like based off of it. Like, I'm like, you could have put year 2065, the film, and then I'm like, yep, or even Spirits Within. Like, they definitely just use Final Fantasy as a marketing thing, which whatever. But like if you didn't tell me the title and you told me to guess, I'd be like, Space Army, Starfleet.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I will say if you take a step back, actually turn around and run for 5 minutes back, and then turn back around and look at it from afar. The baseline premise of this world is cool, but it doesn't do anything interesting with it at all.
Yeah.
It does, like, it's a cool setup for a world, but when, like, if on paper with no details, and then when you start adding the details, it's like, how does anything function?
Yeah.
Why? So
100%.
Let's begin. The year is 2065, and we're in. I don't remember this film super well. I watched it 2 days ago. That says something. We're in. I think we're in a dream, and we hear the '90s Mulan actress Ming Na voicing over a woman named Aki, saying that she has the same dream every night, and she records them. But it also seems to be not a repeated dream, but a continuation of the same dream, which is it's weird way of describing.
It's like
it,
a
but
linear.
Whatever. Yeah, as if like she's getting 3 seconds of it at a time, and she's recording them because she thinks that her dreams are the key to everything. But what is everything? We don't know.
Same.
She says she's in a spaceship and she flies into old New York. So dumb.
They could
when
just
I
say
saw
New
it,
York
I'm
City.
like, God
They
damn
could have just said New York City. They're like, no, old New York. Isn't that implies
because
that
they have a new New York? They do. The city they call that New York.
New old New York.
New old New York?
Yeah.
Real
York,
York. Yeah. So we're in old New York, and she's flying around. She lands, and she's walking out, and she has this gun that makes things scream. when I shoots first firing, and I'm like, are these souls? She's firing like tormented souls. It's like these bright white lights look like they're things that are screaming in pain, but whatever. She's firing out. We don't really know what's going on. She's walking around and she's finding something. She's looking for something. And then the Gears of War Space Marines show up. And
it's the Master Chiefs.
Yes. Master Chief's suit is a little bit more streamlined than these guys. That's why I think of them as
it's like a weird
Gears
mix.
of War.
I just thought of like generic.
They are generic space Marines. Yeah,
video game space.
Warhammer.
If there's anything video game about this, it's their suits.
Generic, yeah. And it's like they're all bickering and like, what is this person doing here? You're under arrest. Why is she under arrest? Did they ever say why she was? Why people just can't be here? It's probably
something like you just can't be here. Just like it's hostile. Like we don't want people dying. I don't know. But she also flew in there. Like no one intercepted her.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever. You're right. And she's just like, if you want to arrest me, fine. But I'm going to do the thing I'm here to do anyway. And
she like walks away, and like no one like tries.
Says, no, get back here, bitch. What the fuck do you think? But if only the police in real life were like that. Instead, they shoot you on sight.
Jesus.
So, like, her gun thing kind of shows what these enemies. It doesn't harm anyone, but like shows that there's these phantom-like things around, these monsters. But the Marines got actual guns, and they run, and she's looking for a plant that she finds and narrows, and she scoops it up, puts it into a test tube, and everyone's like, how can that live here? It's you can't live here. You're coming with us. And so they get her on the ship, and then they all take their helmets off, and it is a diverse ragtag team of Space Marines. It's so generic. We have basically the white Marine dude haircut person. He's Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin's character is the most basic looking white Marine dude I've ever seen. Like,
and you know what? He's in half of the video games in the PS3 360 generation. So I guess this is more of a video game movie than we give it credit for. And we also have the smarmy, white, sarcastic pilot. And he's a little on edge. But he gets the job done. And he's an ace pilot. Then we have the more calm, more calculated thinking black Space Marine dude, who's, we need to rethink about this, or he's it's that character. And then we have Vasquez from Aliens. Yeah, we have Vasquez from Aliens. The what are those? It's called upper body strength. Get a girlfriend. It's the does anyone confuse you for a man? And she says, no. Does anyone confuse you?
Got him.
That type of that was from Aliens.
Yeah,
that is a character trait that, like, ever since that movie, you can see a Vasquez pretty easily. And that's what I don't even know what her name is. I don't know actually what any other names are. All I know is that Aki says Gray a lot, so I assume that's Alec Baldwin's character.
Yeah, Captain Gray Edwards. The most basic last name as well, Edwards.
Oh my god.
Neil. Steve Buscemi's character is Neil. He doesn't even have a last name.
At least Square was proud, or was not proud enough, was not afraid to completely Western whitewash the things that they were doing. The main character is an Asian woman named Aki. So at least, like, because I honestly was expecting this to be a bunch of what's her name from Friends type of of white people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
Jennifer Aniston.
that's what it was in, or the woman from Miss Congeniality, her too. That is a good movie. I'm sure that movie doesn't hold up now, but I liked it as a kid. Anyway, yeah, so they're on the ship and they're taking her back to their ship or a bigger ship or something. For some reason, her ship is gone.
I don't know.
Yes, I don't know where. I don't think that they're taking them back to actual New York.
New old New York.
But they're taking. Oh yeah, they're going there, but they need to stop since they are in a hostile territory. They need to go through a checkpoint where they all get scanned for. I don't know if they at this point they say phantoms, but they're checking for phantoms. We don't really know what phantoms are. And they all go in one by one. They're like, "Aki, you need to do it." And she's like, "No." And they're like, "No,
I don't.
No, bitch, you are." Because what if it's I'm assuming if this was in real life, if we're scanning for deadly virus and you refuse to go, you are just not going in.
We all had to take our shoes off after 9/11. You can get scanned, all right?
Right. You can wear a mask.
Wear a mask, please. Actually,
listen to doctors and scientists. It's not that hard. But then Gray walks through, and he triggers the sensor, and so he's infected by a phantom or multiple phantoms, or it basically just looks like a bunch of holograms of chromosomes, like squiggling around in him. And Aki's like, "I know how to fix this," and she goes in and she just starts spirit lasering his stomach.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I've seen a lot of like medical,
I think the way
science
she
fiction medical
interacts
things,
with it,
in a lot of different movies. One of my favorite ones is Prometheus. There, that whole scene where like she's sitting in that tube, and like gets the alien removed, or whatever it was, out of her stomach. She's pregnant or whatever with. Like I thought that was really really cool and well done, and something that like you might actually see in the future. Maybe in the future we'll get cool lasers. I'm still waiting for lasers in general. We don't get lasers in the way that Star Wars or anything like that. But
I don't know, man. Lasers are kind of scary to me. But eventually, I'm gonna have to use lasers on my eye because I want to get LASIK. So she's spirit lasering Gray's stomach through this.
Within.
The spirit's within my gut, and there's a countdown. And it's the classic thing where somehow the countdown is aware of his condition, and as soon as the last one's destroyed, then
could you imagine the future when someone is dying, and
there's a 3-minute countdown.
You have 30 minutes to talk to him. Any last words like that? That'd be stressing me the fuck out. I'll be like, Mom, I'm sorry. All right, I love you. Like, I wouldn't want that stress. I'd be stressing out for doctors too. Like when you're, like you said, doing surgeries and something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, they have 30 seconds.
I'd rather not know if I'm the one doing that surgery.
Yeah. Because
at least then I wouldn't have if I was 0.3 seconds faster, I would have saved the patient. I wouldn't want to know that. But Aki was 1.026 seconds fast enough. Apparently, because that's where the number it stops at or whatever. And Gray is saved. And that means she gets to skip the scanner. Because the cool doctor, Sid, is there.
The sloth.
So here's the thing. Like, the only Final Fantasy game you've played is the remake of 7. So you don't really know this. But every single Final Fantasy game has a character named Sid. There is one in 7, but after the events of remake.
Oh, it's like Ice Age, yeah.
CID, not SID. CID. And it's always an engineer or a mechanic type person, so a scientist is that's like, again, I said it was 2% Final Fantasy. Naming someone Sid makes it 3%, whatever, like...
According to IMDb, it is an S.
Really?
In the movie, yeah.
Then I take it back. It's 1% now. Like, you didn't even want to spell it the way. That's dumb. That's real dumb. And we now learn as the audience that, oh yes, Aki and Sid with an S are colleagues, and we get a lot of exposition between who Sid is and what he's done, because Aki tells him who he is and what he's done. You know what I mean? You've done this and this and this and this.
What's his face?
Galileo.
Galileo, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we gotta be careful what we say because we're just so freaking intelligent that we'd be seen as crazy. And I'm like, okay.
Well, that is an interesting and good start or lead to a theme of the truth might be too scary to the establishment in the order of the world. Yeah. Therefore, you can't really go about it, because that's exactly Galileo was able to prove that the Earth revolved around the sun and not the other way around, and the church eviscerated him for it, you know? And it's the same kind of fear of like, oh, if we say that the planet is alive and that if we die, or when we die, we go back to the planet, that destroys any sort of theological order the world has, and like that might be too scary, so we're not. But like, it also doesn't really go into that, other than to say that when it goes into layer with James Woods' character, it's just like, this sounds so fairy tale-ish that it's dumb and we don't need to. It's less treated as if this is so blasphemous that it destroys any power we have, but more so of like, this is so stupid it's a waste of time and we could do something that we know will work. So, it didn't really go down this road all that well. But it was a cool start. There's a lot of things in this film that are good ideas at the beginning, and then they go nowhere with it. But
wait, hold on. Sorry. Maxim, the magazine.
Okay. No. Don't tell me. I know.
I can't even.
Really?
Aki Ross was in Maxim.
Show me this right now.
What? This is on IMDb. Yes. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then I'm Googling it.
Way to completely destroy.
What?
This is... It's like when I think Laura Croft was in Playboy on a cover.
Wow.
And then throughout the entire movie, she wears a completely sealed up jumpsuit. So like, that is okay, cool. You're not even going to even humor the idea of sexualizing this female main character at all. Now she's in Maxim. So this looks almost like it's fake.
I know.
I mean, but like, I've seen...
I'm reading I'm quickly skimming these articles, and yeah. World's first virtual actress. She was originally planned to be in multiple films in different roles. What?
So, huh.
It picked up so much steam that Aki Ross actually appeared in Maxim.
So wait, was the idea that Square Pictures, because I think this was like their only film that Square Pictures actually made. Are you telling me that the idea was that they were going to have this fake woman be characters in multiple films?
Yes.
That's actually interesting. I don't know why they put her in Maxim though.
Gotta get the boys in. But like, you're right. Like, she's not.
So is she always going to be Ming Na?
I'm glad that she wasn't, by the way, sexualized in the film. But it is weird. Like, but I guess they're trying to say that, like, oh, she's an actress, so yeah, and she's hot. She's going to be in all these upcoming movies. First virtual actress. What?
I mean, everything about this besides the Maxim part is interesting to me. If you have this virtual actor in a bunch of films, I would imagine it would always be the same voice too. It would be Ming Na, aka Mulan.
There's this. Wait, she's on CNN Science and Technology?
Talking?
We should continue, but I will dip into this later. There's a video that I found. It's 2 minutes, 47 seconds that I think we're going to have to watch later. But yeah, I guess Aki Ross was supposed to be a virtual actress.
now I wish I did research for this thing. I was like, the movie sucks, and that's all I need to know about it. But god damn,
This is more
Okay.
video gamey than we thought. We're wrong. 10 out of 10.
you know what? Square needs to bring this fake woman back. Just Easter egg, hide her in a bunch of video games. That would be a cool Easter egg.
Final Fantasy
Or just-
7
or-
2,
so wait,
Remake 2
was-
is going to just be all about Aki Ross.
No, just like a random person in a crowd looks like her and has the voice. Or if this is the cover of Maxim that you sent me, which I assume it is, this isn't like a centerfold. Just have this magazine somewhere. have it in Barrett's apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, interesting. I'm gonna leave this up on my TV while I talk about the plot. Yeah, and we're introduced to Sid with an S. Now we're in big council meeting, world power council meeting, and James Wood is the evil Republican that he is.
He's wearing by the way, he's like wearing like a watered down SS looking like outfit. Like it's like a cape, but
That's
not.
how you know
It's-
he's bad. Come on, Devin. Visual metaphors. How else is the viewer supposed to know he's the bad guy? Yeah, and he's like, oh, the Zeus cannon, again, failed opportunity there. Zeus is not a name in anything Final Fantasy, but there are lightning and thunder gods in Final Fantasy. All the summons are the same in every Final Fantasy. Put Ramu in there. He's the lightning wizard. Or even if you didn't want to use him and you want to use a name Americans know, Odin, he's a summon. Name the canon Odin. Why Zeus? Zeus is online, and it's been online
Cloud
for a
gun.
month.
It comes from the
Cloud
clouds. Just
Yes.
make it super
The,
on the
the
nose.
Sephiroth. Tifa.
It's not even a gun. He just like, we need to shoot the Tifa.
We need to shoot Tifa. It's been online for a month, the Tifa cannon, and we haven't fired it. We know it will kill the phantoms in the crater because a meteor crashed into the planet. I don't know how long ago it was. Ming-Na's character, Aki Ross, says so in like a narration, maybe at the beginning of when the calamity happened or something, but whatever. And there's a crater there, and that's where all the phantoms are coming from. So if we laser the fuck out of it with the Tifa cannon, then we win. But then Sid with an S is like, but that might actually destroy the planet. So what if we tried something else that doesn't involve destroying the planet? And he starts bringing on his wacky theological stuff. And James Woods, a.k.a. Rudy Giuliani, is like... he's like, this is dumb.
He actually, I wrote, he's like, where is the proof? He says that. Prove it.
His character is just the basic military opposition that's on the same team. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to blow them all to hell, and that's the only way it's gonna get dumb. Thinking that's dumb.
It worked in Japan, it can work in Nam.
Oh my god! I'm sure someone actually did say that. Yeah, that's just all his character is supposed to be. And he has the flimsiest of motivations for continuing to be an asshole. It's just the flimsiest imaginable. It's like in a 3-second scene. It's like, my wife died once. That's it.
In that scene too, I think one of his like officers is there, and he says to his officers like, "You lost family too," and I'm like, "Yeah, probably. Fucking meteor hit the Earth. Like, you're probably half of your family's dead, if not more." Like, in that situation, and it was a pretty big. Like, they show that the whole world was like destroyed. So I'm like, yeah, probably.
It's all dumb. In any case, Sid suggests that if so that the phantoms are a wave, exist on a wavelength, and if you create the brown note, you can negate it. You know what the brown note is? The idea with waves and wave particles is that if you have the exact perfect frequency, you can vibrate an object. So your couch I mean, there's a lot of parts to your couch, but let's just say on a basic form, frequency A can make your couch vibrate. Frequency B can make, the empty bowl you have in the sink vibrate. A brown note is a joke, like that's the note that makes your bowels vibrate and makes you shit. Essentially, they're gonna make the counterbalance wave, and they can just erase the phantoms, who are like spirits. Interesting. And we need to, in order to do that, we need to develop this wave, which means we need to find spirits.
There's like 8 of them or whatever, 9, whatever. There's 9 things.
They make it seem as if it's like a video game and there are 8 MacGuffins and you need to collect them all. But it just seems like, no, there are spirits, but we need to find 8. There are 8 different types of perfect ones we need. Because at the very end, they destroy the last one, and then they get another one. A version of that. So, like, my thinking wasn't like, no, we needed this one planet. It's just like, this one spirit wavelength is so rare that, like, we need to get this plant at the beginning of the film. That was my kind of thinking. Is that similar to yours, or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was just like, okay, we have to find
whatever,
all these.
yeah.
And it's a race against time, but also... There's no
it's a race against time because we started the timer. It's not like that's the thing that's annoying about this film. And there's plenty of things that are bad about this film, but like if on the outset the threat, I mean, like, yeah, like there are these phantoms everywhere and they're bad news, but there isn't like and the big one's going to emerge and destroy everything.
And the council
soon.
was like, yeah, let's do that instead of nuking it. And, like, there was no, like, big pressure. And then it wasn't until later that...
James Wood just takes action and does it anyway,
and
right?
kills, like, everybody, yeah.
But, if a good version of this story would have the phantoms building up to a threat that the people know is going to happen at a certain time. So then you have that pressure, that's the clock. Then you have the internal pressure of, we are going to use this cannon because fuck your wave idea. This will kill it. We know this will kill it. We need to do it. So it's a race against 2 things, but instead it's just a self-started timer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's there's no need for the conflict because they're all safe. If you don't leave, you're fine. They
had time to build an entire city, so
at the very least they didn't set up any consequences for anything else. It's not like, we're running out of energy to keep this barrier up and so we're on a time. Like, no, it's like, if you just stay fucking put and wear a mask, you'll be fine. So
that's what made this movie is, dude.
It's COVID fucking 19.
Final Fantasy, the COVID within.
Yes, the Corona within. So, Aki and Sid are on a mission now to find the spirits within.
I can't get over this freaking picture.
I still have it up on my TV. She's looking at me disappointingly now. Her smile has turned into a frown.
You don't like me?
I actually did think that her character, I mean, the main character should be the most developed, but, like, I didn't dislike her character. I didn't really like her character, but I didn't dislike her character. I disliked everyone else. So I guess you shine that way.
I think after that, doesn't her and Edwards talk or whatever, and then like that's when you find out they had like a past thing. And I just want to say that whole conversation sucked.
It's so lame.
He was like trying to be flirty, right? And then she's like, yeah, I almost died. I need to get all these spirits so I can survive, and like I hold them within me. I actually had to take a spirit from a young dying girl. And then even after that, he's like, you still want to fuck though, right? I'm like, dude, read the room. You can't go. It's like after a funeral, you don't take your girlfriend and you're like, so you want to fuck, right? Like, no, give her time to mourn, bruh. That whole scene was so awkward and I'm like, and bad.
And she reveals that she is infected by a phantom, but
yeah,
that's how we know the wavelength thing works in theory, because she has a prototype of it that doesn't erase the phantoms, but at least acts like another barrier on her chest. Which I am actually, again, no sexualization. I'm glad they never actually showed that. I'm actually surprised that they had that restraint, mean, like, you see maybe the top of it a little bit.
But it's not like she's like, oh, here's my whole breast. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? If this was Tomb Raider, she would have been wearing pasties and nothing else to show it. You know what I mean? So I mean, at least
it just cuts to her in the Maxim thing. She's like, "Can you see it?" Wait, I guess that's a good point. Now I look at it, that she doesn't have the thing on because she's the virtual actor or whatever.
Well, it's also not real, Devin. But also, no one in Maxim wants a bunch of viruses swarming around in like a tank on her chest. So, Death Stranding. So yeah, So going back to that, the bickering and the flirting between Aki and Gray Edwards there, the reason why they stopped talking is so fucking lame. They stopped talking years ago, but like, you know, you always see it in couples where like, or in movies or stories where couples bicker and argue about why they broke or whatever, and you did this, and but it was because you did this, and usually it's all nonsense. But in this case, it's written so poorly that you can literally climb down the ladder to where it started, and it was simply, I left and decided not to tell you. And because of that, you did this, which made me mad, so I did this. And then you did this, and I did that. That's it. Instead of like a confusing web of mixed emotions and sending the wrong signals. No, it's just, I just decided to leave, and we're mad now. You know, like I saw them. I'm like, wait a second. Like, I understand how bad their relationship is already, and I'm not even them. You know.
I mean, when he's just trying to bang after years, and when she's trying to tell you like a very like personal thing, and you're just like, let's bang. No wonder it didn't fucking work out.
He's also just. This is another problem I have with this film. Now. What year was Monsters, Inc.? That was 2003?
I think so. 2003 sounds right. Let's just say 2003.
Okay, so then, up until this point, to my knowledge, the only person in this film that has voice acted for an animated anything was Ming-Na, who played the main character Aki Ross. Well, who was Aki Ross, who was the main character in this film, also named Aki Ross. Apparently. Because Steve Buscemi was in Monsters, Inc., but that came after this film. I don't think Alec Baldwin was in an animated film up to this point. I don't think Ving Rhames, I think is his name, but the guy from Mission Impossible that played the one stereotypical Marine, and I don't know who was the Vasquez, but you know what? James Woods was also, he was in Hercules. He was Hades, so he was. Him and Aki are the only people that have any form of energy in this film at all. Alec Baldwin sounds like he is mumbling his lines. Steve Buscemi
he came in there for one day and he was like, okay.
Probably. And he got paid hella good probably for it too. Steve Buscemi, who is a very emotive person, kind of does that, but it sounds like he's kind of also reading it off the page and didn't memorize it, you know.
He has lines that I'm just like, he definitely just did one or two takes.
This was yep. Yes, exactly. But it's like, and everyone's talking quietly, and it's just so bad. There's no energy to this film at all. Coupled the fact that the visuals are super drab and gray. There is no vibrant colors in this film.
There's not even that much action. If you really think about it, it's a lot of dialogue, and then like build up, and then like,
man, that's the square way, my friend. That's all that stilted dialogue. Although I will say, at least a lot of the times they're moving and talking sometimes. But you know, that the fact that there is basically no color in this film also reminds me of they did the same thing in Advent Children. There's 3 colors and they're all gray in that film. It's not black and white, but you know, but like there's the world is so bland and dreary. The villains are the celestial yellowish orange, and the good things are blue. And it's everyone's mopey, not necessarily, but the way they talk as if they're mopey, and everything sucks. The end. So that's how the film ends. I'm sorry.
It is, basically.
Let's speed this the fuck up. Yeah, so they're bickering. Stuff goes on.
They go to the pit where they need to find one of the spirits, and there's like big
we're
ones.
picking up spirits left and right. She's having dreams, and
phantoms.
she's having dreams of these tall, kind of humanoid like phantoms having a war with each other. But then they stop, and they're all staring at her. That's weird. And then
they're like, "Well, we saw your Maxim, girl."
Girl who looks like the actor we know playing you that has your name. This is, I'm just, dude, like, now I want to research Square Pictures a lot more, because I did not know that they decided they were going to make a virtual actor to put in their films. Which, again, I guess makes sense for your reusing assets to save money.
Yeah.
You know, and you get what I would assume was a cheap voice actor. I don't know if anything else Ming-Na was in besides Mulan. I'm sure she's been in things. She's doing the same voice she did in Mulan too. What happens?
So they go and they find the spirit, and it's in like a canister on someone's body. Oh, and during this scene too, the one Marine is like, I think my father died here. And then the one guy's just like, let's go. And like, no one's gonna like acknowledge it or be like, hey, do you want to sit back in the ship? Like, is this gonna be too much for you? And everyone's just like, I don't give a fuck what you just said. Let's go. Like, not even like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Nothing. They're just like, let's go. Like,
they go to Empty Canyon shitland, and it's dangerous. And Steve Buscemi's piloting the ship, but they're all on the ground. I don't know why he didn't drop them off closer. Well, whatever. He's floating up ahead, but they have these buoys to attract the gigantic fucking scary monsters to them
that are invisible, but not.
Yeah, they're see-through. They're X-ray. They're spirits. They're phantoms. And they find, yes, it's a canister on this man's ass, which has bacteria or something in it, and that's the spirit, because I guess I was alive, whatever.
And then she gets like the flashbacks, and she's super weak, but they were able to get her on the ship, and then we get like a Star Wars thing where Steve Buscemi's flying the ship through like all like the close corners and all that. But, yeah.
Well, the giant millipede is going to eat them. And
then one of them is like, no, we got to turn her in. Oh, wait.
I forgot. Sorry, let's back it up a bit. After the big council thing, James Woods is like, we're fucking doing this anyway. I can't trust. She has the phantoms inside her. They could be controlling her mind. We can't be doing this shit. So he has some top men keep an eye on Gray, who is also... he reports to James Woods. Alec Baldwin reports to James Woods, and so James Woods sends people to be with him. So there's extra people in their crew, Marines that don't take their helmets off. And that's how we get the horrifying, the spirits eating them, you know, or like taking the phantoms take their spirits. And this terrible movie. And that's stuff. And then like, oh, why didn't the buoys work? It's like they're attracted to Aki Ross's in-house phantoms, and then I think since she has another flashback or like dream flashback thing, and I don't know where the reveal of like this wasn't an invasion, this was a coincidence happened, but at some point during this she's like, well, what if these aren't like warriors or monsters? What if these are just like animals from that planet that they're from? These are elephants or whatever. These are giant fucking scary elephants. But what it doesn't make any sense to me is that these are both shown as a force of nature, but also a calculated invasion at the same time.
Yeah, because they go after... The thing is,
like, it's not just that they're hungry, you know? Like, this is calculated, it feels like. Especially the big one.
Yeah, and then when he I already forgot his name already. Jesus.
James Woods.
James Woods' character lets in phantoms purposely. They just ignore whatever he wanted them to do, and they go after like everybody. I'm just like you said, it's not like a force of nature if they're just actively killing people. Like it would be different if they were just kind of like there. You know what I mean? Or you
Yeah,
gotta
like,
hunt them.
a bunch of
for them to
hungry
attack.
animals are now let into a farm. No, these feel very calculated. You're right. You're 100% right. So, like, but there is a theme of symbiosis that they're trying to show here, like with, humanity and the planet. But at the same time, and she has these phantoms within her, but they are not a symbiotic relationship. They are going to kill her, but they're also kind of helping her, but not really. Again, it's all super confusing. This is super thinly written. It's terrible.
But yeah, the whole city goes down. She got shot, and she recovered in time or whatever. And they're all trying to escape. Then we have like a 35-minute thing. It feels like 35 minutes of them trying to escape the city.
You
Just
get a
trying to escape.
helicopter.
Not even trying to like
Do anything.
Just leave. And like everyone pretty much dies.
Yeah.
Except for
Gray
ex-husband and yeah.
and dad.
And dad.
Essentially Sid.
Yeah.
With an S, aka dad.
I'm assuming everyone died, but James Woods. Right?
Because I think he was on the Zeus. He was in space, orbiting at that point, I think.
Oh. But no, whatever.
No, because he has to turn the power. He's diverting power from the barriers to power the cannon.
Okay.
But then we know for a fact he is in space. Because the cannon's is overheated and he's overriding it manually by pulling levers and stuff. He's in space. But he was, whatever. Maybe he gets in a ship and leaves and we just don't see it because, again, who fucking gives a shit? But yeah, we spend 35 minutes trying to just take a helicopter or whatever. Everyone dies. No one knows how to fly a helicopter, except then they do. And then they're going to get the last spirit, which is going to be in the crater. And James Woods is going to fire the cannon. They land there. But Gray doesn't
It's so
believe...
dramatic that when the cannon shot, then I'm like, oh, they're all gonna die. I'm like, oh, they're actually gonna kill off everybody? Like, does the bad guy win? And it just does some damage, but it wasn't Death Star level I thought it was gonna be. But
my thinking was that maybe it wasn't a surface area explosion, but more of something that penetrates deep. Because again, they were buried real deep. So maybe it was supposed to go in deep and then deal damage to a living phantom thing. Maybe that's my explanation, my thin excuse. Because he fires it 10 times at them.
And then he's also stupid once again when he towards the end there where he blows up the ship because he's like, oh, it could definitely handle one more shot. It's dude, you didn't learn from your first mistake.
Oh, he also attempts to commit suicide and then doesn't because he's a coward. Remember that?
Yeah, he does it, and he's like, "Oh wait, never mind. I can still blow this shit up."
And then kill myself.
And then he still dies anyways, and kills all these people who probably didn't deserve it.
They were blindly following orders because that was their job, But yeah, so they're down there in the crater, and at this point, Gaia is visible. You can see that I'm just gonna call it the live stream, like in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
the spirit within is now visible as bright blue, and. Oh no! The laser destroyed the last spirit. Fuck, we're fucked.
But yet
except that we can make a new one. Okay, one of these phantoms, because it came in contact with Gaia briefly, is eligible to be the last spirit. Which one is it? And they're all and Sid. Yes, they all got. I give my rose to you, and you, but not you because you're a bitch. What was I gonna say? Yeah, and so it's so dumb. We got Gray, who's the only one that has the gun, because Aki doesn't get a gun, apparently. And all these phantoms are slowly swarming him, and he's gonna fire, but Sid's like, no, you don't know which one is the good one, or the one that we can use, so don't kill any of them at all. And he doesn't ever fire that gun, to my knowledge. So then they are in a little pod now that has a barrier, and... How do they make the thing? I know he sacrifices himself, but
it was science stuff where he just had to put something in something, and it was going to make the thing.
Long story short, he becomes the final spirit, and he gets sucked. His spirit gets taken by, as they time it so that his spirit gets, as it's being taken by a phantom, it gets sucked into the life stream, into Gaia or something like that. And then that's how, like, it's now good again. And then they make the wave, and the wave expands, and I legitimately don't know what happens next. I forgot completely. And I was trying to think about this.
Like, all the phantoms are killed or whatever. And I think it honestly... Oh, it's him, or it's Aki and Alec Baldwin, but Alec Baldwin's dead or has no spirit, and she's just there with him, I think. And then the credits, I think, roll. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And, like, this is, like, my thing with, like, any sort of, like, apocalypse, like, movies, video games. It's always like, okay, you cured everybody, or you fixed the problem, but now what? Like, there's maybe 100,000 people out there. Where do you even start? You're still going to be conflict.
We have
fight
love,
over
and
territory.
we can take that journey together. Whatever.
But yeah, it's fine. It ended like that, but wasn't very satisfying, I guess.
And then the credits roll, and they roll on forever, and that's when I noticed that there's only like 6 actors. I will say, yes, I got to the clip that you texted me as the weird butt rock that plays in the last half of the credits. I will say that as a base level, the idea of a world ended, and that planet's Gaia, part of it got stuck on a rock, a piece of the planet that got shot into space, that crashed into Earth, and it wasn't an invasion, and it's an unfortunate coincidence, and that Gaia, which is like maybe like a third of it or something like that, is like just trying to survive, and it needs to take over like a parasite in order to survive. Like, I think that is a cool idea, just as a baseline. But as soon as this film starts to then think about the implications of that, it fucks itself over and becomes extremely boring. Like, it's just boring. That's the only thing it's boring. This movie doesn't end even really happy.
Yeah, it's like maybe the first 5 minutes I'm like, okay, and then it was downhill ever since. It never actually went up. Even during like the invasion of the city or whatever, when they're trying to escape, I didn't care about anybody.
Yep.
And it was kind of predictable. I'm like, okay, this guy got impaled. He's going to die. He's going to do his last stand. But then, they have to save the ship by fixing this thing. I'm like, okay, she's going to die. Oh, Buscemi's going to die, of course, because he's like, do comic relief, and when the world's ending kind of thing, and he dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when Alec Baldwin, Edwards, we've called him so many names at this point, Edwards was like, oh no, leave without me. I'm like, let me guess, she's going to come back and save him. I'm like, I would actually have been happy if they're like, yep, he's dead too. Cool.
This man is not a Marine, and I'll tell you why. He's having a last stand against a bunch of monsters that are slowly walking towards him. As the helicopter is flying away. It's gone. At least in his mind, it's gone. And he's standing still in a very lazy pose, firing his machine gun in one direction at one of them. Fight.
Hey, this is the future. There might not be many people.
It's just
alive. So maybe the Marine, the level to get into the Marines might be lower. I don't know.
It's just like, it is this man. It doesn't look like he does anything. It's just. Is this the worst film that we've seen for this stint of video game movie reviews?
Yes, 100%.
I think so too. Part of me wants to be edgy and put it above Mortal Kombat, but I don't think Mortal Kombat was at least entertaining in a bad way sometimes. Yeah. This was boring as fuck.
I hope I never watch this again.
I mean, I got a Maxim cover out of this, I guess, so can't say the same for this movie's bad. I wish I wrote down what our rankings were for the video game movies. Did you have them down?
Does it matter if it's going to be at the bottom?
That's true.
I don't think
what was it? At the top was Resident Evil, but it's like not really a big deal.
I just have the one for Diesel here, so I don't think I have a...
Whatever. Again, I don't think we really wanted to rank them for real. Just maybe compare it to the last one we saw, I think was what we decided. The Tomb Raider is better.
Tomb Raider at least is entertaining at points, or has cool moments, but this had nothing cool. There was nothing cool in this ever, besides maybe like the laser surgery thing, but that was cool for like 30 seconds.
This is the third video game movie in a row that we've seen that starred a female character, female main character. Also, all within the same 3 years. 2001 was Tomb Raider.
Dude, next. We have to go like
Dead or Alive. That made $7 million. Let's see. What other Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li?
Okay, maybe
that's another female-led one. No, because I want to watch the first Street Fighter movie before that. I want to watch those in order. Silent Hill, is there a woman in that?
Yeah,
whatever.
Main characters. Yeah.
But yeah, no, this movie sucks ass. I don't know. Do you have any other parting thoughts about this film?
Wow.
I'd rather watch every single one of the Vin Diesel films over this.
There's a lot of this is probably one of the worst movies I've seen ever. And I've seen a lot of bad movies, I think. I would say. And this is definitely down there. It's definitely down in the garbage can, deep in there.
My God. I have it on my shelf. It's forever a part of me.
You need to get I kind of want to get the Maxim cover like framed as a joke and like put that behind me when I'm streaming. Be like, oh, what is that? Be like, oh, it's one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite actresses.
Let me try to find this shit on eBay.
Damn, we gotta pick a better one. We need to get back on the coaster because I feel like we fell off the roller coaster, the video game roller coaster.
We want to watch a good video game movie next?
Yeah, I think
or one that we think is going to be good? Well, let's see. At some point in the future, relevantly soon, we'll do Advent Children, but that doesn't have to be the next one. We could do Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. Or that one was okay.
Got my boy Jake, right?
Yeah. Do we want to make that our next one?
Sure. How tall is Jake Gyllenhaal?
Nice. I remember sending you that song. All right, let's wrap up this episode. Sonic Movie Show is a weekly podcast that you can listen to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, YouTube, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, the works. Find us on a place that you prefer. If we're not on a place you prefer, let us know on Twitter. The show can be reached at Sonic Movie Show. I, Ethan, am on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin is on Twitter at CURSONA YouTube. Let us know if you watched this film and if you were excited. I want to know if anyone was actually excited about this film, like the hype leading up to it.
Ever.
Let us know if that was you. Let us know if that was you.
Let us know if you're getting that Maxim magazine.
God. Did you buy the magazine? Yes. Yeah, and we'll see you next Sunday for another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. Bye.